The brains in this one? I'm just checking.
Well, that makes me the beauty. So that's
okay,
a perfect
wait a minute. We're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about why art. We're going to talk about the want of art. We're going to talk about why we want to make art and why people want to make art.
There's just something you do. The way you hold me close, I just don't want to move.
So I'm a big fan of alliteration, and I wanted to do Harleys and Hairspray. Story. There's 3 S's. No, succulent is not one of the S's. No, that's a treat S. That's a gift S. That's not one of the 3. It's like Christmas all over. This is all foreplay waiting to turn into something bigger and better.
Let me tell you about Dr. T. From Mad Love Music. He's a songwriter, producer, and ex-music prof. You can find him at Mad Space Love Space Music, and that's you, Dr. T. Makes me think about teeth. Or maybe my name, Tina. You're on.
TinaO. Not just TinaO. TinaO Life. She's a super cool human first and foremost. She's also a writer. She's a speaker. She's a performer. She's a chaser and keeper of stories. And together, a podcast called Harleys
and Hairspray. I can just start.
All this stuff with the stats here.
Oh, we've got some stats.
You know, read those stats.
All right. Okay, everyone. Welcome back.
Hey!
Hey.
Rolling.
It's you and me.
Me and you.
And we're talking about one of your pals.
Such a good pal!
Right?
Do you know how to pronounce his name?
David.
That part is good. I'll do the heavy lifting.
Okay.
It's Tallarico, and he runs a place called the Beat Cave, which is a great recording studio in Vancouver.
Oh, that's him calling right now.
Oh, well, could be. My favorite last-born son. How are you? I'm really glad you recorded all that.
Well, you're a good dad. Hey,
Oh,
can I just
thanks.
say that? You're a good dad.
Yeah, a dad that puts up with mullets must be a good dad.
Well, come on. Did you have a mullet?
Yes, it was a
Right?
it was Latino, Jerry Curly mullet. It was fantastic. So I have a favorite firstborn son and a favorite lastborn son. Everybody's a favorite in their lane, in their category.
Oh, very good.
So
Well,
that was my favorite lastborn son calling.
aren't you a dad of today's world?
I am fair daddy.
However, I know this about you. You don't live in a world where everybody wins.
No.
Right? There's no participation ribbon.
I despise that. Oh,
Yeah,
really? No, that doesn't cut it. So what were we talking about?
I think it's a great segue into David. And we were going to just talk a little bit about how much of a rock star he is, right?
How much of a rock star is he? What can you tell us about it?
Such a rock star. So let me read a little bit of some of his things, some of his top things.
Incredible.
David Tallarico is a producer.
He is.
Right? And a recording engineer.
True.
And he's from Vancouver, BC.
Also.
Yeah.
True.
He has a song featured in Netflix's Sense8. CBC Top 100 Canadian Songs of 2017. Over 1 million streams on Spotify.
Woo, that's a lot of streams.
That's a lot of streams.
7 figures, baby.
Okay, help me with this one. DJBooth.net approved. I just think that's cool. I'm just going to say it again. DJBooth.net approved. Can we put a stamp on that?
That should be
Is that DJBooth.net approved?
I don't think so. But
What is Maximus doing?
Maximus is digging into some cold cuts.
Oh, that's okay. Keep going.
We work together in the studio, in the Beat Cave. And the guy has absolutely no qualities that bug me. Do you know how rare that is?
I do. For authenticity's sake, I'm going to say again what I said before we were recording.
Okay, let's see how close you can get it.
Okay. How authentic can I be?
Yes.
Truly, I show up, and it does not work for a lot of people. I show up without research.
Yeah.
I don't want to know you before I get in the room because I will receive you in a completely different way if I walk in here knowing your credits and your la 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 la. I want to find out who you are as a human first.
Do you think it's because then you have this trajectory set and you're always trying to guide it back to that thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think because this is a conversation about art, art isn't about what happened yesterday. It's about what's happening right now. Right? In that super alive place.
That can also help if you have someone who's maybe a bigger name than you or a smaller name than you. It kind of levels out the playing field because that's cool. Like, but I need to hear about it from you as opposed to.
I like that.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that way.
And that's why Rick Rubin is not going to be on this show. We know too much about Rick Rubin. He's got too much of a discography.
Yeah.
And also the word research.
Yeah.
Why not just search? Why even deal with the re?
That's yesterday's news.
I like your approach. So, to our one beautiful listener, right?
Redundant.
It's redundant.
Ooh.
Just dundant. It's just dundant.
That's an amazing word. It sounds like a kid drum.
Dundant.
Yeah.
A dundant. So welcome to our show,
Yay,
David.
Thank you.
David.
Thanks
For those that
having me
don't
here.
know you, and who, I mean, so many must know you, but for those that don't, full disclosure, you're my dear friend
Yes.
and frequent collaborator.
Yes. So
And-
if that precludes us from getting any sponsors because of our prior friendship, I understand.
We are sponsored by the Russian Mafia only,
Oh my gosh.
and they have no limitations. So we're
Okay,
covered on
unlimited resources.
unlimited,
All the stoli you can imagine.
and so much more that we can discuss off the air. And this is our show, right?
This is our show.
And it has a name.
It does.
What's the name?
Harleys
And Hairspray?
Yeah, for you.
For me,
You get the hairspray.
and you get the
I
Harley.
get the Harley.
There's nothing like a girl and a hog. Tina, can you tell us where we are? Like, what do you see around you? Because there's a lot going on.
We're in a studio. We're in a recording studio with a great big tagga on the wall.
Yep.
And a lot of GAC. Like, there's a lot of plugins in here.
Yeah.
And you know how to use all of them. And I'm just being like ridiculous, but all that stuff is true. But we're in a space, you can feel it when you walk in here. Like, you're in a space where listening happens
Yep.
and attention happens.
Let me tell you what I love about this space.
Okay.
It blew my mind as I was driving here. I was thinking about the miracle of birthing music and birthing creativity. And I thought, the recording studio is the second most miraculous place after a hospital delivery room.
Right.
Where you birth so many. And so I thought, wow, this is the closest I'm going to get to giving life and birthing something new every day. And maybe it's the miraculous and mystical nature of a recording studio that I love so much because of that very sensibility. So maybe we should talk about you. Hi.
Sure. Hello.
So your name is David Tallarico, and what do you call
Correct.
this place?
The Beat Cave.
The Beat Cave.
Can we have a little
Yeah.
shout out for your socials so people know where to find you?
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Beat Cave?
So www.davidtallarico.com is the best spot because I am not a primary artist. So people are looking for stuff I've done. My discography is through others.
Right.
So
Nice.
my website's the best spot. Secondary would be at David Tallarico on Instagram.
Fantastic. So you're
It's
like a
the best.
musical doula.
Right, that's right. I say I'm the midwife to your music.
That's
I have been known to
incredible.
say that.
The midwife to your music.
And I heard one other person say that, and it's someone I know, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to think I'm stealing it from you. So
That's
but
a great
no,
line.
he said it was okay.
Is that actually on your business cards?
No, not yet.
No, it's a work in
I came up with that
progress.
after the business cards. You know, you got to get 500. So
For sure, for sure. So you were formally trained, right? You have a diploma from an institution.
I do, yeah.
You're not just one
it
of
was-
these improvising fly by the seat of your pants, open a place.
Right.
You're well schooled. You're a scholar.
Well, I studied electric bass at Douglas College.
Okay.
So that was my formal schooling, and then I did a business diploma after that, and then that bridged into a business degree.
Right.
But in terms of recording engineering, no, actually, I was self-taught. I don't like that term really because really, I mean, someone taught me. It was just through books, through YouTube, and through tutoring.
Right.
So it wasn't really necessarily formal, but I spent a long, long time just kind of teaching myself while people were thinking, what's that guy doing down there in the probably my parents. What is he
In
doing
the
down
dungeon.
there?
You're gonna get a job.
Just hear a bunch of noise.
Yeah.
And no, but that was, you know, pretty much the entire time I was studying anything else post-secondary. I was studying on my own, learning how to record. And that actually extends back into high school as well. So most of high school I was trying to figure out how things connected. And, yeah.
Totally. Totally.
And my dad was kind of an inspiration in that regard because he had, well, in a lot of regards actually, but specifically he's a guitar player and he's a computer teacher. And
Oh.
so all the ingredients were there, and it was just a
Yeah.
matter of like,
Fusion.
how do I plug this one into this one?
Yeah.
And then once I figured that out, it was like, okay, let's go.
Go.
Okay, so
That's wicked.
I have this question
Mm-hmm.
that I can't wrap my mind around the answer of.
Mm-hmm.
You are comparing yourself to
P.
songs.
Diddy. Oh, sorry, no.
Well, only on Friday nights. Only when we're throwing that white party annually, every Friday night annually.
Yeah.
No, but you're comparing your work to the works of great engineers, great producers, and as you're teaching yourself the craft, how do you know that you're ready? Because once you start competing, you're competing with the best of the best.
Right.
So when do you jump off the ledge and say, oh, I think
Yeah.
I'm ready to do this because what I can do could be comparable to what is currently being done in the marketplace by
Yeah.
masters who've been at it for years.
It's a great question. How do you know when you're ready?
How do you know in the arts? How do you
Yeah,
know when
how do
you're
you know when
ready?
you're ready?
Right.
You're on, David. Tell us.
I'm
How
still
do we
not-
know?
No, I can
I'm still
tell you.
not ready.
I can tell you because it's not necessarily my individual answer. John McBride, great recording engineer, his wife Martina McBride,
Yeah.
a big country singer, right? He says you're not really done, just the deadline comes up.
Oh, that's perfect.
He says, you just keep working on it until there's a deadline. So I think that it kind of has to be imposed
Okay.
externally. So if you don't have an outside force doing that, you have to impose your own internal deadline.
Right.
And that, I think, needs to be set by other factors as opposed to you necessarily as an artist. Now, obviously, there's going to be huge variance in that
Yeah,
because you have
yeah.
artists who just know they have a feeling,
Right.
What if you don't have that feeling? I guess this question is more talking to those. I don't have that feeling that it's done.
Mhm.
It's external deadlines can help, and if you need to set those own deadlines for yourself, think about, well, if I was my manager, because secretly you are if you
Yes,
don't have a
yeah,
manager.
that's
So
right.
Sure.
what would I say if I was managing myself? So that's a good way to do it. Another way for, I don't know how well this will apply to other disciplines, but for recording, I know that at a certain point you can kind of overmix it. And by
Right.
that, okay, so
Yeah.
that's like muffins. If you're making muffins,
totally.
you want the ingredients need to be combined.
Yeah.
But then after a point, it's
Yeah.
overmixed, and then it won't be a great muffin anymore. So
You get bigger bubbles. Just so you know, if you
Oh,
overmix,
okay.
if you overmix,
Yes.
that you get bigger bubbles in your
So
muffins, and they're
the air pockets aren't
yeah.
correct.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah.
No, you do.
about muffin air pockets.
Muffin air
Right.
pockets.
This will be
Yeah.
the name of this particular episode.
Muffin air pockets.
Air pockets.
There's a
wow.
good song in that. Okay, back
Good
to
punk
you.
band name too.
Muffin air pockets.
So rebellious.
It's like we're not supposed to be here.
So but we made it.
We made it.
We beat the establishment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's when you say you don't you don't really know when you're ready. And when I listen to Spotify, I listen to hip hop records, for example, that are you have a beat maker and you have a rapper.
Yeah.
And that's a very different process from, for example, a Carrie Underwood record where you have these traditional Renaissance musicians making everything glossy. But at the end, this song's on Spotify, this song's on Spotify.
Yeah.
They're both done.
Yeah,
You could say one is more ready than another,
yeah.
but that has nothing to do with reflecting the success or the quality of the composition itself in the end.
Right.
So you never really know that you're ready. You just go, right?
I think that's true too.
Yeah.
There's such. It's weird to say, but there's such a thing as having too much knowledge of what
Totally.
you're doing.
It's stifling.
Yeah, it can
right?
be, right?
Totally.
So the
Preach.
magic happens when you don't get to that place. So you kind of cut it off before then, and
Well, I think there's something about being in that land of curious and conquer, right? I'm super curious. I know just enough, so I'm going to go and I'm going to figure that out. That's that conquer piece. So I'm going to go until I'm just going to keep going until I get it, whatever that get it is. I think someone said to me a long time ago, totally different discipline is coaching. But she says when she works with clients, she'll only work until 4:00 because that anything after 4:00 totally screws up everything else that you did before that. And that's that overmixing part.
This life coaching.
Yeah.
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 Maybe it's just too much feedback in one day,
Yeah.
right? Maybe if you started at 1, you can go until 5 or something. But she's probably starting in the
Yeah,
morning.
yeah, starting in the morning.
Right.
Like I think
Yeah.
there's kind of like a neuroses that kicks in.
Yeah.
Where we actually just need time to integrate what's just happened.
Yes.
Right? And if you don't give yourself that time, you're going to try to outsmart it or something like that. You know?
Yeah. I was watching this clip that they were doing a tribute to Quincy Jones, and there was this person who I didn't know. She might be a pretty big act, so sorry, no offense to who they are, but she was saying, you know, we used to do like these 12-hour recording sessions
Right.
and be there super
Yeah.
long, and I'm just like, yeah, but you know, I don't know who you are, you know, and you were working with one of the best people, best music producers of all time, and so maybe even at very high levels, there's a certain amount of like, okay, we've pushed it too far, and now we're not getting that thing anymore that's happening. And it's like, okay, we have the technical ability to do it.
Right.
You know, I'm such a great singer. I can sing for 12 hours without blowing up my voice. But have you lost that magical thing?
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you have someone like Clint Eastwood who will move through a movie very quickly.
Right.
And then maybe he'll go back and redo a scene. But he always keeps on his set that feeling of progress.
Right. He's
that's-
methodical too, right?
Yeah.
Like he's like he sets it all up. He doesn't. He's not like me going Mach 10 with my hair on fire. Like, yeah, it's really it's like getting to know your artistry, really, right?
But also this notion of not overthinking. I love this
Yeah.
whole instinctive
Yeah.
idea of like, and you also said, when you said overthinking, I think, oh, yeah, you know too much. My greatest detriment is having a theoretical printout of the music that we make when we work together.
Yeah.
And because
Tell me what that means.
So-
theoretical printout.
I understand the math and the architecture of music.
Okay.
And so I a lot of times rely on that for my song crafting.
Okay.
And when you rely on the math too much, the pendulum swings too far in that direction, you sort of take the magic and the heart out of it.
Right.
It becomes a very clinical,
Right.
very medical. It's like you take a scalpel to a formula. And so knowing too much can be detrimental, and not it's almost like you know the mechanics of a slap shot. And then
Right.
you start holding, you overthink
yeah.
you know, your grip and your stance and your position, and then the joy is gone. Like the essence of the magic of what we do here is gone.
Like
So I completely agree. I've been there.
But
Ooh, love a good butt.
David's
doesn't, right?
David has one of the best butts in the busiess.
Woo!
very compact. Anyway,
It's a concise butt.
I'm talking about your butt, not my butt.
well, there's room for everyone. So, anyways, I've worked with you though, and I don't see that. So I don't know. Maybe you've worked past that though.
Wow.
Because I don't see someone who's like, no, that note doesn't make sense. You need to change it because that's not what Tchaikovsky did. You know, like I don't see that in you. So, but I have, you know, there is also a point where people don't know enough to get outside of their first thing that they figured out. So
Wait, say that again.
So they don't know enough about the craft to get outside of their first idea, or first thing they figured out. So they're just like, okay, I figured out a song and it goes like this.
Yes.
And they said, oh, hey, I wrote another song. It goes like this. And it's the same kind of a thing. They might be dressing it up slightly differently, right? So maybe you've got an album of songs like that in you. But then you have to go back and figure out something new again, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you've really mastered the theory, like I think Alex has, then you're able to quickly shift out of your, like, you don't know you're in a prison, but
Yes,
you are,
right,
because
right.
you know these chords,
Yeah.
and then you reorder them, but you're still within this box.
Because you have lots of tools from
Those
your
are
training.
your only options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So
I
Alex-
And it's
love
always
that.
eggs and ham, and
Yes.
sometimes it's ham with some eggs.
Right.
And maybe ham, eggs, ham, but it's always just that, and that's all you ever do.
Might change
Right.
the eggs, might change the ham.
They could be scrambled, they could be sunny
Yes.
side up, but it's always eggs and ham.
You're kind of locked in.
We milk
So-
jokes, just so you know. We're like milking.
Okay.
That's what we do.
Okay.
Okay, back to you. And that was just like, because we go on a riff. Okay, back to you.
I was like, is milk part of the breakfast somehow?
That's right.
Is milk?
Did we
Like,
add the
Is
milk?
milk-
we have a new
Eggs!
ingredient. We're baking the metaphor. No.
Damn, we're big muffins. Okay, back to you.
Muffins, yeah. But that's kind of what we can lend to artists too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little plug for what the kind of tracks that
That
me and Alex
you-
do
that
here
you work
is we
on,
try and say,
yeah.
okay, well, you know, that's actually kind of similar to this last song, or you are using that
Oh,
riff
nice, you
in
guys.
your ad libs again. Like, why don't you try this? And almost, it's not even about like, okay, my idea is better. It's just my idea breaks your idea, and then you come up with a new idea.
That's
I
right.
love it.
I break you out of
Yeah.
your.
Okay, so I'm so new to this world.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you love this? Like, why did you choose this? You could have chosen
Oh, yeah.
anything.
I think that I don't know that that's entirely true. That I could have chosen anything. I feel like it feels it doesn't feel that way, does it? It feels like it chooses you, and then you kind of have to you can either fight it or you can go along with it.
Yeah.
And if you fight it, then that means you consciously, in one sense, choose a different job and you go and do that thing, but you never are fully fulfilled in one sense. And I'm not speaking to necessarily even doing this as a career. You just do this as part of your life. Maybe I chose to do this as a career. Maybe I didn't have to do that.
Okay.
Right? But once you get bit by kind of the music bug
Yeah.
or the spirit of the music
Yeah.
hits you, right? And then it's like, okay, well, now this has to be a part of my life in this kind of way. Even if you have to do something else as a career,
Right.
you know, that was maybe a choice. Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
That's huge.
Isn't it?
It chooses you. You don't have a choice, and then within your choicelessness, you start navigating through other
Yes.
opportunities
Yeah.
within that.
You could, well, I mean, you could choose to ignore it, I suppose, but then it's now part of you is missing,
Yeah.
right? So now you're not fully integrated as a person moving forward. Now there's a part of you that is tied up over there. I do lots of hand gestures too, so I'm glad we're doing
Good.
it.
You know, it's like a
know
modern
we can
dance
hand
group in
gesture.
here.
That's right. Okay, you're totally speaking my language because my whole thing is even if we say, "Meh, it's not what I'm going to do." No,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
The thing that you are is always the thing that you are, and now it's an energy leak.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well, yeah,
literally
yeah.
trying to exist, like you said, fighting you.
Yeah.
And you don't have. You're exhausted
Yeah.
by the end of the day because
yeah.
there's a part of you that is trying to be heard. So I'm with you. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's your life. It's what you do.
Yeah, it can be a leaker. It can be directly against you.
Right.
So you can be doing something else and thinking, I'm not supposed to do this. I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to be here right now. But you can also integrate if you choose not to do this as a career, because it is a tough career choice, right? But if you
music
choose
itself? Is it
music
tough? Okay.
itself, yeah, it's hard to kind of catch those initial breaks. You're dealing with artists who maybe don't have the funding that
Right.
you feel like you deserve, maybe. But you can also work in a part-time job that, oh gosh, is his name Young Guru? Jay-Z's engineer?
Yes.
Yeah, Young Guru said that, okay, he said he used to work at the Marriott, and he said, but he did that in service of his music. So he said, like, he can't stand, grown-ups who say, I can't get a job. He's like, no, I went to the Marriott, said, hello, welcome to the Marriott, and then he would take that, any energy he had left, and pour that into the studio, right? So if you're considering this as a career, yeah.
I'm waiting for your eyes to light up because I'm like, I love that.
Well, no, there's so many great stories, and all of these stories of people making it in the music industry are filled with sacrifice of living out of the car, working at Wendy's, like Jay
Yes.
White did it, right? Who's had songs with Cardi B and et cetera, et cetera.
Nicki
And
Minaj said she was still working at Red Lobster when her song was on the radio.
right,
She was at work, and
Wow.
I might be getting my facts crossed a little, but that does happen. Or Ryan Tedder said he was like still in this really rundown apartment, and like
I think he was living in Nashville, right, and working at a restaurant or something, and all of a sudden
yeah. But I just remember his story on, and the writer is, and he
another
said,
great podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah, another great podcast.
he was living in this apartment that only had stairs up to it, and he was on crutches. He had this injury, and he's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
he
this
had
was
songs on the
another-
radio, and he's like, okay, back to my little apartment, right?
And he was writing Halo in that
Yeah.
apartment
Oh,
for
yes.
Beyonce,
Yes,
right?
yeah. So there is a bit of that lag effect, and so that's
And it's that thing that you said that you do it in service of your whatever job you have. It's actually in service of what you're doing. Love, like, what an awesome perspective.
But
'cause
there's
your
no
whole
other
life is
way.
art. I agree. I totally agree. But
There's no other
I'm
way.
stubborn like that. Like,
Yeah.
there's no other way for me. And then when for me, I see others that are like fighting it. Like,
Right.
come on.
well, maybe they're the stubborn ones. Oh, that.
Yeah,
What is
maybe
that
they are the
great
stubborn
great
ones.
life lesson
Right.
about sailing instead of rowing? I
I don't
heard
know
that
that
one
one.
time because when you sail, you go with the elements. You travel in your vessel with the tides, with the wind.
Right.
Whereas rowing, a lot of times you're going against the elements and you're trying to get somewhere,
Right.
but
right.
you're in conflict
Right. Right.
to try and get to your destination.
Right.
So this idea of sailing versus rowing speaks volumes to
Yeah,
me
yeah.
about just your perspective on life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the total acknowledgement that the water's there.
That's right.
Like, that's the music,
Yeah.
right? That's the art. It's like the water's there.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
boat you want to take to do this?
Yeah.
Because the water ain't going anywhere.
Right. Right.
You're not autonomously in control.
No,
You're
it's a
just
bit of a
not.
balance. But you also have to determine, okay, like that thing over there that I know I want to reach, okay, I do have to row to get there, but it's you know, you need to make room for both.
No, I mean, there's going to be
Yeah,
work.
there's going to
There's
be
gonna be work.
Yeah, well, and maybe that still is sailing, because sailing is
Sailing
work.
is work,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
still
no, that
you
makes
with
a
the
lot of
elements,
sense.
but
That makes a lot of sense.
And
yeah.
you bring up a really good point, though, in this conversation about art, is like our relationship to work.
Mhm.
Right? Like, we do work for what we do.
Yeah.
We love what we do, but there's effort involved. And, like, I have a
Absolutely.
thing about, like, the whole, I get it, affirming, or, you know, you bring about what you think about and affirming your way forward and manifesting, la la la. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you roll up your sleeves? Do you ever roll up your sleeves?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh.
what's your relationship with work and art?
yeah,
I think
I've
that's
seen you
fine.
roll up. In fact,
My sleeves are currently rolled
because
up.
it's going to be a
Matt.
work day.
Right, yeah. Well, yes, I would say that you do, and if that is your primary motivation to go into music is because you think this is going to be an easy path, then you're probably not going to stick around too long.
Testify, brother.
Yeah.
Testify.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I've seen people
Yes.
who do this kind of just for a period in their lives, maybe when they're
Okay.
in university. That seems to be common. Like, I'm going
Oh.
to join a band while I'm doing this thing. I mean, university's over, it kind of peters out, right?
Yeah.
I think it's because they thought maybe it was going to be easy, or there was going to be some sort of a flip that would happen. Because things look like overnight success. We love that story, don't we?
Yes, we do.
It's so, oh yeah. Like, look, they were meant to be.
Oh.
There was a show on MTV called Born to Be, right?
Right.
And you'd watch it, and they ended every episode like, I guess Lady Gaga was born to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's how every episode would
With
end,
that
right?
voice, too.
With
yeah.
that voice. But-
Born to be.
right. And but it was actually, the show itself was actually a
Great.
pretty good look. They did
Yeah.
actually a pretty fair job of looking at, like, then she got dropped from a label. And then they had to find their way back. And it's like, oh, okay. So the title, maybe not my favorite, but it did a good job actually of showing all of the trials and tribulations that people have to go through.
The struggle that make her
The
a
struggle.
15-year overnight sensation.
Right. 15-year.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
that's the reality. That's
Yes.
everybody's story.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in the fact that you run a studio. So you're in the trenches as a music doula.
This is true. Can I say one more thing? Before
Oh no,
we go
please, before we transition.
out of that? Yeah.
Because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not going to forget my point.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm gonna
Now
try
I forgot
not
my
to.
point though. Is that weird?
The
Okay, no, but-
overnight sensation.
Okay, yeah. No, overnight sensation. It's you poking into like the public consciousness, but yeah, you were underneath that, and that doesn't mean you were any less during that time. You were still there doing your thing. You just weren't topping the charts. It's like that
Right.
little peek through. That's what the overnight thing is. But you still existed as a human being before that.
That's brilliant.
You were there. You were there.
And you were doing probably the same work
Yes.
that all of a sudden has come into the spotlight for that moment in time that's made you have a breakthrough.
Yes.
But nothing's really changed in your life and in your craftsmanship. Just the spotlight's come into your life somehow.
Yeah, and everybody else is down there struggling in one sense. I put it in quotes because I
Yeah.
mean, but it's kind of like, you know, that Buddhist thing, like you need to joyfully participate in suffering. I'm butchering it, but you know what I mean.
Totally.
It's about like you have to accept, like, okay, you
Yeah.
know, you're not, you know, but what are you working towards? So, and that gives you meaning.
Okay, so
I
you
like you.
you are such
Thanks.
okay. So on the surface, you look like a runway model. It's very clear.
I will take
Yeah,
a
like-
compliment with
Are we
no
back on
further
the bus?
questions.
No, like yeah, I could see you.
I could
you
question
know,
it, but I will not.
Paris Fashion Show, Spring Line 2022. You're there. You're
Right.
on the catwalk.
I'm there mopping the floors.
You're
like, I wish I
you're
could be
mopping the
on
floors.
stage.
That's right. Waiting to be discovered with a broom.
That's right.
But you're a really thoughtful, thought-provoking, spiritually inclined human, which is
you.
a great gift that
Yeah.
you bring to the folks that come in here.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about the struggle, and so while you're sort of quote unquote in the struggle, what really intrigues me is that every day there's a new artist that comes in here to work with you, and work on their songs or collaborate with you on their songs. So you're not just in your own bubble; you're actually transitioning into a different bubble from a different human
Yeah.
every single session. What do you see? Like, why are these people all motivated when they're making next to nothing from their craft? What motivates them? Is there a common thread for them to all remain in the struggle and to be committed to the music that you see from session to session?
I think it's despite the struggle, because I don't think that they're here like, yeah, give me more pain. You know?
Yeah.
they're doing it despite the fact that the struggle is not really irrelevant. It is defining in some sense, but it is really despite it. It's because they don't have another choice. Like, I have the song, I've written it, I need to put it out into the world. Help
Right.
me with it, and I'm here to help, and I'm happy to help. But it just needs to be out, one way or another.
So the common thread is everybody has a craving to externalize something that
Yes.
they've internally
Yes.
structured.
Yes.
At least the artists that come in here, right?
Yes.
They've got to.
I feel
it
like
needs to get out.
that's also who I gravitate towards, and who gravitates towards me is people who have a story,
Yeah.
or even if and by story I don't mean maybe they're not totally explicit in their story yet, but they know that there's something in here that needs to be outside,
Out there.
and that'll help them relate to the world a little better, and help the world relate to them a little better, and maybe help you relate to you a little. It's about the human condition at some level.
That's
Yeah.
right up your alley.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm super curious.
The journey of story and
Yeah,
our
yeah.
interconnectedness through
Yeah,
story.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so if I think about my own process,
Mm-hmm.
research, write, release. Like that's my thing. Like I'm a dive in,
Mm-hmm.
teach me, swimming in the collect, and then
Mm-hmm.
write something and then give it away. The bridge that's the hardest for me
Yeah.
is actually the release.
Mm.
It's like it's when I
Right.
so I'm just curious about that because
Yeah.
what I hear and what you're describing is that the musicians that walk in here, there are three parts. The one that's the most juicy and alive
Yeah.
for them is the world needs this. I need to give this to the world.
Right.
So interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's not really ego driven either. It's not
I hear
like
that. Yeah.
It's not like I am so great that my thought needs to be out in the world.
Right.
I have this thought. It needs to be out there. There's nothing I can
Right.
do. I'm just along for the ride. No, not always so passive. It's usually quite active. They're
Yes.
usually interacting with this thought, and they're like, if I could get this out, if this could reach 5 people, that would be great.
Right. But
So-
but there's a real impulse to give it away. Is where I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
if
I
you
could
work it
speak-
backwards.
Yeah, I can
you
speak
get
to
it,
that
okay.
a little, I
Okay.
think. Tell me if I get this wrong or right, though. But the release part can be difficult because... Alex loves this. But the release part, I think, can be difficult because then it's not wholly yours anymore.
Yeah.
And you don't know how it's going to be received.
Okay, so I
right?
find that really juicy, but
Oh, yeah. But that can be frightening, right?
Yeah,
Because you're just
for
like,
sure.
well, what if people don't see what I mean by this line? And
right.
that's a chance that you take. But how I try to encourage artists to get over that is also not defining you in totality. So like you can now write another song. You write a song about how they didn't get the first song, right? So,
Oh my
often
gosh, I love that. It's like a chain reaction.
Well, you're on to the next.
Yeah, you're
Like,
on to
once
the next.
you're done, on to the
On to the
next.
next.
And
Right.
and I totally agree because people are assessed in a very immediately quantifiable way, right? With DSPs now. Well, if your song isn't reacting, you have 7 streams of that song. Not great. But that does not need to define your process, your craft, your art,
Right,
and the
right.
quality of the song itself.
Right, and that can also free people up to write their next album. And can free people up to say, I have this new song. It doesn't really belong with these songs, but I'm here. Like, what do I need to put it out now? And it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we record it now because now we're in the zone and we kind of have this economies of scale thing going
Right.
here, where everything's already set up and we kind of have
Yeah.
a flow going. But maybe let's record the bed tracks and save that for later.
Yeah.
Because these songs are meant to kind of stand together.
Yeah.
And then say, but these songs are all, I'm just going to make up, like, these songs are all happy, but I'm not purely a happy person,
Yeah.
right? Do I need to put that in? No. Like, this is one piece of art. You're not going to live in this one piece of art forever. You're going to go make something else. And,
Yeah, this is your blue
Yeah.
period. But you're going to have
Yes.
another period,
Right.
right?
Yes.
It's just a
Yeah,
vignette
yeah.
of a moment in time. In
Right.
just a chapter of your book.
Yes.
But I love that kind of undercurrent that I feel comes through in almost everything you say. There's like this undercurrent of waiting, like when you said the word integration. It's not integrated. I'm like, oh, this is really important to you. Like there's something about timing, and there's something about things doing the thing at the time it's meant to be done, and at the same
yeah.
time that the collecting of the art can be done anytime. But there really is something about timing. Would I
There's
be
like
right?
an ecosystem
Thank you.
that you are
Yeah.
interacting with.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you can feel that. You sense that.
I think it's kind of this push and pull.
Yeah.
It's the push and pull, and we kind of talked about that a lot today, like the rowing versus the sailing,
yeah.
right? Like, and you kind of have to know when to push and when to pull, you know, and when it's just okay, we're at that we're in the sweet spot. Like, let's just maybe the song's done, you know. Like sometimes you'll record something and it's just vocal and a guitar, and they had plans to put a whole orchestra behind it. Who knows? But it's like, oh wait, no, this is right, you know.
It just feels right.
Feels right.
Like
But
you're in
sometimes-
service. The song
Yes.
tells you.
Yeah. But sometimes you also have to go down that road all the way down, and I mean,
I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Let's keep searching.
let's
Look
keep
at
going,
where
and
we're
then
at.
and then you just end up back at the beginning. But you need to trust that you needed to do that,
Yes.
and that's something that, I had this seminar thing with a pretty big local producer, and he was saying that he's seen people become bitter, right? And he says he never wants to be that guy who maybe had a couple big records and they just become bitter. And he said he didn't want to do that, and he's managed to not do that. He's pretty fantastic. But
And why? Yeah.
I think it has to do with you need to like the journey of it, because you can become bitter if I've already been down this road. I see how this is gonna go, and that also deserves like the space to be said, because I can you can save artists a lot of time, but it's that you need to put that as part of the journey as opposed to truncating the journey, because you need to say, hey, I've been down that road. You need, I've tried recording vocals like that before and it hasn't worked in the past.
Yeah.
So, but if they say, no, it needs to be that way, then, you're okay. Well, then I'm going to help guide you down that road, because I have been down there before, and maybe we're going to find something different with you. So that's the push and pull there.
I want to send everybody to you.
Just for the counseling.
Well, like,
It's not even musical
Yeah,
projects. Just for just the David Tallarico Beat Cave Counseling Hour.
true though. It's like, I know
Yeah.
if I send an artist to you, you've got them. Like, and not just their
Yes.
music,
Oh, thank you.
but them.
Holistically.
Holistically,
Yes.
as
Yeah.
people, they walk in as a whole artist, or maybe not, but they walk
Yeah.
out as a whole artist.
I have told David that he might be, and I don't say this frequently, well, I shouldn't, based on what I'm about to say, he may be one of my favorite humans. Because, for so many reasons. Number one, he bugs me the least.
Wow.
You bug me the
Yeah.
least out of most of the people that I know, which is huge.
Yeah.
And
I still
number-
bug him, but
Well,
He bugs me a little when he usually like glissandos in my works, and he deletes
I just
99% of them. So he bugs me when he does that. Most glissandos don't really serve the composition, so it's true. I appreciate your perspective.
sometimes he'll look at me too. I'll be like,
Yes, I have a whole rococo attitude about it, and then I paint a dot on my cheek after each glissando. But it's not only that you bug me the least. I think you are you may be one of the more complete people I know, because you see
cool.
like
I'll take it.
and I'll give it the more we spend time together, and it's for me a great session, which is going to lead into my next question. But for me, a great session is one that provokes thought, is filled with laughter, pushes you to be better and explore other options, and you give me all of those things on the regular. You just, it's always a fun time, it's always a great day, no matter what the result is musically. It's always a great day. And you always unveil, and I do mean always, in every session you unveil layers of you use the phrase the human condition, that are so delicious you just want to plug in. And so you are one of my favorite people.
thank you.
And I know a lot of people.
and
So
he's easily buggable.
easily buggable, which is a backup name for this episode. Easily buggable. We just got to figure out the spelling on
No,
that.
I like the punk rock muffin one better.
That was
good.
so hot.
Yeah.
Air pocket
Air
muffins or
pocket
something?
muffins. Air pocket muffins.
So the question that I had was, obviously you love what you do. We love what we do as artists, and we're compelled to do it. But every day is a different day, and you have good days, you have bad days, right?
Yep.
Good days at work, bad days at work, loving what you do.
Yeah.
Maybe you could paint the picture for our one loyal listener
Yeah.
of what a good
perfect.
day
Yeah.
looks like
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
world.
Beautiful.
Versus
Yeah.
what may be not necessarily a bad day, but an ineffective day looks like, where you just leave frustrated saying, that could have been different, that could have been more impactful. So good sessions versus and need improvement sessions.
Yeah. For me, it's I'm gonna have a good session if I'm leading kind of a balanced life outside the session.
Right.
Then it doesn't really matter what happens in the session. You know? It's like
can't rain on me, man.
Right. Because if I have a good attitude towards
Yeah.
it, and somebody says, you know, like, David, I don't think that what you're contributing is any good or something like that, I would say, okay, well, you know, then so be it.
Do people actually say that?
Not like that. People are so nice. People are nice.
Because you're like you
People
get
are so nice.
vulnerable.
We're in Vancouver. It's a very nice city.
Yeah, you put your. I'm glad you dropped the city name because the Beat
Yeah.
Cave, yes, in
Yeah,
Vancouver.
yeah.
But no, in this process, you share your vulnerabilities. So I have an idea, and I have an idea, and some ideas are stronger than others.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to have your vulnerabilities stepped on. So I'm really hoping people don't say to you, you know, your contributions today, they all were kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, no. People don't say that, but sometimes I hear that.
Yes.
They don't say it, but I hear it because I'm having such a bad day and I'm in such a down mood that they'll say like, "Oh, I don't know about that." And I'll be like, "You don't got all the answers, Sway." You know, I pull out the, you know.
Yes, sir.
But that's not. That doesn't have to be the case, right? They could
Right.
say, "Oh, I don't think that's not really working for me," and I could say, "Oh, okay, that's fine," because you know. So I would say that's the answer for me, but maybe speaking.
Or
For having a good session versus a bad session.
yeah, like maybe mechanically, right? In terms of how a day progresses logistically, where things just don't seem to click, versus a day where things
Yes.
actually click seamlessly.
Right.
What does that look like?
So like, let's talk to the craft of it. Okay, yeah. That would look like everyone shows up and has just a baseline understanding of the material we're going to work on.
Right.
And if there's a new song to be made, it's a baseline of, I'm kind of feeling this, and I'm kind of listening to this, and this thing happened to me the other day, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. Maybe
Right.
let's talk about that. So it's openness, I think, would be for a new song. And if it's a song that is maybe new to me, it's good if the artist has, here's what I know about the song, here's what I don't know. You know, and people have a plethora of ways of doing that. They all do it in their own way.
Right.
But there's still a difference, and you can just kind of feel it sometimes. Like the artist hasn't actually, maybe they wrote the song a few months ago and they're going to play it for me, but they haven't played it recently, and it's like, okay, well, now we have to start from a much earlier square,
Right.
you know, and that isn't going to work for you or for me. And so I think preparation, and you don't have to be too prepared either. It's just a matter of, yeah, just knowing your craft and
Right.
just sitting in, okay, I basically know the song. And, you know, maybe you've practiced it a few times, like run through it a few times and done it to a click maybe even. So on that technical level.
But come with nourishment for others, for your collaborators,
That's a good way to
basically,
put it.
right?
Yeah.
Come with something to offer, and also you say maybe don't be too prepared. I think that's so important because
Yeah.
you want to give it room to grow and be its
Yeah.
own thing with other people's
Yeah.
input, right?
Yeah.
If you're choking this thing,
Yeah.
then you might as well just be writing and working on
Yeah.
this all by yourself.
Yeah. I just saw an interview with Linda Perry at the Vancouver International Film Festival, and she was saying she doesn't really prepare much of anything these days. She just wants to come in and just be reactive to it, right? But
That's my MO.
I mean,
Right there.
it's literally what you said, right? But at the same time, you need to know your craft in some sense in order to do that, right? So,
Totally.
you know,
Yeah. There's like
Yeah.
a ground of trust. In order to leap, there's some ground of trust you have to have. And I think every artist develops that ground of trust in their own way.
Right.
Whether it's education or just experience, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you got to have it.
yeah.
But Linda
Yeah,
Perry
so-
is that's so valid because Linda Perry has developed and earned that freedom over the 30 years of hit making
Right.
that she's put in,
Yeah.
which now gives her the tools to be reactive and come in completely free of
Yeah.
being prepared.
Yeah.
Because she already has. You're talking about a baseline.
Yeah.
She already has a huge foundation of preparedness.
Yeah.
So just showing up is bringing that whole foundation of 30 years, that whole career.
Yes.
She's there.
Comes
Right.
with you.
But she's emancipated from that responsibility.
So yeah, bringing that in, I think also bringing in, how did I put it? Like letting go a little bit of the outside world, I think. You
Say
know,
more.
like I've thought about just having a box and we all put our phones in the box, you know, but that's not really great for developing a following because people want behind the scenes footage and stuff like that. But I think that there's a layer of, I'm going to the studio. This is somewhere special. So I'm going to
Yeah.
disengage
Totally.
from
It's
the
holy.
other thing that's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yes.
And when I'm able to do that too, maybe I'm upset about something else that's going on in the world. I kind of need to leave that at the door too.
It totally
So-
affects the work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
It
mean, it's-
fractures the energy if you're picking up your phone or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe there's a point in time when I'm pulling up something on the computer, right? And I'm taking
Yeah.
a couple minutes to say, oh, okay, I'm gonna pull up my phone. Let's do a little Instagram live video and
Yeah.
say like, hey everyone, I'm in the studio today. That's totally fine. So there's space for both, but
Yeah.
it's more so just a mental commitment to leaving the outside world out there. So that can really help to make a good session too.
Right.
Yeah.
In talking to many of my non-music making friends, they think that songs just appear.
Mm.
Oh, I'm at Walmart. I hear a
That songs
song.
just appear.
They just appear. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
song. Yeah.
Okay.
And many of them also see as there has to be a curtain behind which there's the great and wonderful Oz weaving some sort of magic. This inexplicable, non-formulaic, very cleverly hidden from the masses magic. And so, but you do that every day. You're behind the curtain, the great and
Right.
wonderful
Yeah, yeah.
Oz.
Right.
So, can you maybe share the actual sequence of steps? People come in with ideas, but there's nothing happening yet. You're about to craft something, but logistically, what are the steps of going from nothing to creating sound, organizing ideas, and starting to craft what we know to be a song?
Right. Oftentimes, I'm trying to interject structure into something that's unstructured. And I try to do that in a way that is, and you're going to find different producers having different tacks for
Right,
that. Some of them are very much like, look, here's how things should sound. This is why you came to me, and I'm going to pop it in there.
Right.
That tends to work better with bands. Maybe bands who are listening aren't going to be too happy to hear that, but that tends to work better because you have this larger group of people. You go even larger, you have an orchestra. The conductor is the one who's
Correct.
calling these shots.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much. Like, maybe I kind of do this section here with a little bit more Rob time. Like, no. Unless you're the featured
Yeah.
Right.
performer, that's not how this is going to work.
The
you know?
viola doesn't get any
No.
rubato treatment.
No. So yeah, with larger groups, I tend to gravitate towards smaller groups because then I get to be a little bit more open with, okay, well, what do you think about interjecting this little bit of structure in here? So that's very general. To go a little bit more specific, usually it's sitting, let's say someone comes in here and they only have an idea for a song.
Right.
Then we start with songwriting. And then that's bouncing ideas back and forth. Usually for songwriting, I like to call up Alex, because Alex can generate so many ideas so quickly, and they make the artist so excited so quickly too, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm basically the fluffer for David's artists.
My
I just get him
goodness.
super excited.
Yeah.
And then I leave.
Everyone needs a
then-
fluffer.
Everyone needs, and yet another podcast episode title. Everyone needs a fluffer.
I'd be cool with that, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's the songwriting stage, right? And then we're focusing on lyrics, we're focusing on concepts, stuff like that. And typically in that sort of a session, we're recording things too. That's kind of a new age wrinkle in it. That didn't exist before. You would write a song, you would have the chords written down, and then you would go to a recording studio and then record it later.
Right. Okay.
Now we kind of integrate that process all in one. So, we have this idea, why don't you lay it down now? And maybe we'll record it again later. Maybe we'll do some re-records. But
Really?
often
It all happens here, all of it.
that's
Yeah.
how we like to do it most of the time, when it's possible.
In every one of
Yeah.
our sessions, we come in and the production, the
Yeah.
sound recording of it
Yes.
grows as the song grows
Okay.
concurrently. So
Yeah,
that by the
yeah.
end of a day, we have a thing. It's not finished, but it's fully written most
Yeah.
of the time,
Yeah.
structured and arranged. The chords and the melodies are in place. The lyrics are in place.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to be cleansed and purified. But yeah, that's a very recent, I think, evolution.
Yes,
Right,
I think
of
so.
the
So
process.
efficient.
Yep, quite.
And that-
So efficient.
And that also speaks to how we structure music these days as opposed to...
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so things like sound effects, or I'm not thinking of like a dog barking. I'm thinking of like things that are little melodic things
Okay.
that wouldn't have been played necessarily because you had to play the song start to finish.
Okay.
There's a bunch of people in a room playing their instruments, right?
Okay.
Whereas
right.
now there's much more little ear candy.
Right.
Maybe that's a better term for
I
it.
love
than
it. Ear-
Love
sound
ear
effect.
candy, yes.
Yeah, so and that's a lot of the time what I'm adding.
Okay.
I'm adding these little ear candy moments.
Yeah.
And so that kind of co-evolves with the technology because now we can record things so quickly. I can throw in this little quick idea,
Wow.
whereas that wouldn't have happened as much before.
And in fact, they are so vital because we think of composition as melody, harmony, rhythm, form.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very mechanical. Like it's
Yes.
very robotic.
Mm.
What you are addressing is the very essence of personality. Like
Mm-hmm.
that ear candy is what gives the song life.
Mm-hmm.
It transforms it from a skeleton.
Yeah.
Where the shape is in place.
Yeah.
Everything's in place.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden it starts coming alive, and that
Mm-hmm.
also happens with a particular vocalist tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things those two elements I think separate a skeleton from a living, breathing entity that has its own personality and its own
Yeah.
sort of stamp of I
Yeah.
exist, I
Yeah.
belong,
I am.
and
Yeah.
I am, and this is how my amness, this is how I
Yeah.
differ from other things that exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So those are vital.
And that is much more important to all forms of art today. Whereas if you go back, to like
Damn,
how
brother.
people would structure writing a symphony, right? There were 4 movements. There were 5. There were 3. There were 4, right? I'm talking about like the romantic. Well, would that be romantic or classical period?
Late classical,
Right.
early romantic, yeah.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah,
there.
yeah. So then once you get into the later romantic, it's like, well, what if I do 5?
Yeah.
It's like, Mahler, no, you didn't. Right? It's like,
Mahler,
rebel,
Mahler.
you.
Rebel.
That Wagner. It's
But
crazy.
we laugh because by today's standards, that's so tame.
Right.
Yes.
By the standards of that day, it was like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of weird and different. So then it was more about pouring your uniqueness into a mold, and the mold was very rigid. And then you start to see over time, as we approach the 20th century, that mold starting to become more flexible and fluid. And in the 20th century, it's about breaking the mold. And I think we're still, in some sense, in that moment of breaking the mold. Well, actually, 21st century maybe more is about, we didn't want to talk about the mold.
Yeah. That's like what,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
the mold?
The mold,
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
It does.
We don't want to talk
yeah.
about the mold, so that's kind of where we're at artistically now. So that ties into how we will approach work and the fact that we're recording it right away, and we're able to add in these little character things.
Right.
And so the vocalist maybe isn't taking it home and smoothing things out. What would even govern that smoothing it out process?
Yes.
Because then the mold is broken. You
Yeah.
know, like if they're doing something that's kind of weird and raspy, it's like, oh yes, that, more of that.
Yeah.
As opposed to project.
That's right.
Right.
But there's a real risk taking. There's a real chance taking, which makes the music seem. It makes it feel like the spirit of rock and roll is still alive. The rebel spirit, the anti-establishment, the take risks, and I think maybe if we can summarize this conversation, I tend to see life as being just a variety of treadmills, and you choose your treadmill. That's a horrible visual.
Just an empty gym.
Just all treadmills and bikes and ellipticals. And then there are folks that say, no, you know what? I'm going to find a different way to do this. I'm going to find a different way to exercise, to travel, to go on my journey. This belt doesn't quite work for me. And I think those sinewy bits that are between the treadmills are the things that actually move culture forward. It's the chance takers, it's the risk takers, it's the jump off the ledgers, it's the breaking the mold, don't even mention mold.
Yeah.
That is why artists create art. I think that's why they're compelled, because there's a sense of such uniqueness that is so anti-treadmill, anti-traditional establishment. And those things have to exist because that's what elevates us as human beings.
So art as the vehicle for, right, evolution.
Evolution,
You will.
elation, elevation, it's all of those things. And so many of those things are unspoken. I mean, you brought up a raspy voice example. Yeah, more of that. you didn't even know we needed that until you heard it. And then
Right.
you're like,
That's right.
oh,
That's reactionary. Yeah.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the interaction with the art. You're having a conversation with the art. You didn't even know what you needed.
Yeah.
You didn't know the Jackson Pollock splatters
Yes.
would be so impactful. But when you saw them, it was undeniable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's what you have to follow.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah, you need to be able to stay open to that and to, I think, have the technical ability to
Right.
incorporate that.
Right.
Because if you're like,
That's important.
actually, I don't, like maybe someone's doing something weird on a drum kit. You're just like, I don't know how to record drums like that. Maybe they've taken like the bottom skin off the toms. Like that was, I can't remember what drummer did that. But imagine if the recording engineer was like, no, that's not how you do that. Then they wouldn't have the unique tom sound that they did, right? So it's being able to, have the technical ability to accommodate that. So, yeah.
Wicked. Wicked. So I have this theory, and I see it over and over and over again. So it's a theory because it's real.
Okay.
Everything you're supposed to know happens in the first 5 minutes of a conversation. And then the rest of the conversation is literally unpacking what that meant.
Okay.
And so we said right at the get-go, how do you know when you're ready? And to me, this whole unpacking, we've been everywhere. We've been, when you're prepared, we've been flying by the seat of our pants. We've been when you just said technical ability, having that technical ability to see the thing that just was reactionary, that you can run with it. I'm like, that's how you know you're ready. Like, that's what ready is. Are you ready to, can you see something when it's there? If you can't see it, then you're not ready. You're not ready to see it. You're not ready to run with it. That just, boom, I just had to say that. Okay, the other thing I wanted to say is, so I work with people when they write their books. Okay. And what I love is, like, you just brought me through this whole efficient practice of everything that takes, honestly, an author, like 18 frickin' months. Like, low end, 9 months.
Okay.
High end, about 18 months. Draft 1 is all for them. Draft 1 is like, be as indulgent as you want. It's all about you anyway. Just like, come on, get it all out. Draft 2 is the holes. Now that we know what that's all about you, what are the holes that are missing? Draft 3 is like the fattest draft ever. It's like, go and collect everything. Like, now root it. Do your research. Do your, like, no stone unturned. And then we move into the 4th draft, and by the 4th draft, the voice is arriving. The actual voice, the personality. When you said personality, and you're like, okay, there's 3 voices in this piece. You've got a poet, you've got a drill sergeant, and you've got a teacher. And that starts to happen. Then after that, because then we know how to edit, we go into impact. And then the 5th draft is the throw cushions. I call it throw cushions, where you said the ear candy. And you're like, okay, well, now we just get to put the throw cushions in the room. But it takes 18 months. Now, I know there's a lot more words on the page, but what I love about what you showed us on your perfect day is that an artist can literally walk in the door with their sensory experience of what it is that they want to say, and they can go from draft 0 to draft 5 to polish in a day. Like, hell to the to you two, because that's amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that's something we pride ourselves on a bit. But, sometimes it does take longer, too.
For sure.
Right? And there are times when that's not even the process necessarily, right? Like, that's kind of an ideal situation, and that's kind of, it doesn't always go that way, because sometimes they'll come in and they'll have more of a vision. And then we have to chase that around a little bit.
Yeah.
And then by the time we're done that, it's like, vocals now, like, they're not in that space.
Not ready yet.
Not in that space.
Okay.
So then they'll come back a different day for that. And then even when we do the entire kind of creation process in one day, there's still a lot on the back end that we have to do after. And that comes down to editing and then saying, that weird part that we did, actually, now that we've kind of sobered up, I don't mean that in terms of drugs. Like, just we are now past that experience. Now I'm listening as an outsider. It's like, ooh, that part, that was kind of weird.
Right.
Not in a good way weird.
For a different song.
Yeah, I mean, that's for a different song, right? Or we thought it sounded good because we were so used to hearing it. Now with fresh ears, it just sounds messy or something like that. So there's still a lot of refinement. Yeah. So really, we kind of get more to draft 3. Draft 3 was the big one?
Yeah, the big one.
We can kind of get to there more in one day.
Yes, I hear that.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I heard that too. Like, that's wicked.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
But I do appreciate your notion of this can be efficient. Art can be efficient. It doesn't have to be drawn out.
Yeah.
It could just be impulsive and boom.
And if you're in the right hands, right? You feel safe to explore things.
If you're in the hands of the audio midwife.
Yeah.
That's right.
Midwife to your music.
Midwife, that's even
Double
better.
M. He likes alliteration.
Yeah.
The letter, you're the
Yeah,
M&M. Yeah. David, what a pleasure. It's really cool for me to be on the inside of these experiences with you, but then for this milieu, be on the outside, talking to you and sharing you with the world, because you're so worth sharing, man.
Yeah.
I adored this time. Thank you for spreading the love. What do you think, T?
Oh, I just dig it. I dig you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like to talk.
Well, bravo, man. I love it. Harleys and Hairspray. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm kind of just, honestly, there's not much I can say. I really appreciate you and yeah.
It's funny, she appreciates you after having just met you, and I appreciate you after knowing you for several years. So obviously there's something there about you that gives off solid vibes.
I'm humbled, and thank you for having me. That's all I can really say.
And we'll see you on the catwalk and the runways of the Spring Line 2022.
I'll be in the background.
Thanks,
Twiddling,
man.
I'll be DJing. Maybe if I'm lucky.
Hey!
Hey.
One way or another, we'll see you there.
Right.
Signing off.
Okay.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, guys. Oh, that was fun, right?
That's wicked.
That's 56 minutes of power. You crushed that.
That, honestly.
Dude.
Oh, we're still recording down here. Sorry.
How the hell did I end up here looking all a mess? Waking up alone in last night's party dress. I need confession, I'm long overdue. Got a list of sins and they're mostly true. And I try, then I try again. But my new life started when my old one ends. Someone wakes me, says it's last call. I'm wasted but I don't drink at all. Miracles mixed with alcohol. I wasted my time but had me a ball. Keeping all my good time friends but cutting off the sad loose ends. Amen to that, amen to that, amen to that, amen to that. Heels are high so I'm closer to heaven. I can be a bit loud with my voice on 11. Amen to that, amen to that, amen to that, amen to that. My life can be a mess but I can wear the hell out of the summer dress. I know just where I'm at, so amen to that. I love to wear my boyfriend's shirt but there's just something you do. The way you hold me close, I just don't wanna move. And it's not just physical, I'm still part of you.
You can't say that.
Oh, I didn't realize we were live.